30, which is in southeastern North Carolina. We are a district of about 54 clubs with about 1,600 members. Most of our clubs meet face-to-face each week, but we do have a few what we call virtual clubs that meet via Zoom maybe twice a month. The Global Partners in Peace Club, which is the club that's sponsoring our briefing today, is one of those clubs. They meet every couple of weeks on a Zoom call with members throughout the world. And Sophia is going to tell you a little bit more about the club after I'm done with the introductions. But I want to thank everybody for being here today. I want to thank the Global Partners in Peace for putting this briefing together. This is the second in the series, and we hope to be doing this every quarter on a different, very relevant topic. I want to spend just a couple minutes telling you about the district and how we got involved with Ukraine and with the refugee situation. Because, and I'm going to brag on a couple of people who have done a tremendous amount of work to make that happen. But around September 2022, we started sponsoring families because of an introduction with Welcome.us, who some of you may be familiar with. Denise Bell was the representative for Welcome.us at the time. And we started talking about how can our district support getting refugees from Ukraine into our district. And I asked Dan Parks, who was with Wilmington East, to take that on. And knowing he was the right guy to do that, he jumped in with both feet. I know Dan's on the call today, and I want to give him a personal shout out for making all this happen within our district. He got the Welcome.us and another organization, Church World Services, together. And we've partnered, something that Rotary's never done before in a situation like this, is officially partner with Welcome.us and Church World Services to bring refugees into the country and through Rotary. And Dan was kind of the I guess, trailblazer in understanding the process, which, as you can imagine, is not an easy thing to do and pretty complicated. But working with Denise and Church World Services, we've actually brought into the district, we brought in 6 families. And Dan's also worked with other districts around the country, along with Pat Curley, who's also in our district. And to date, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 families that we've brought into the country from Ukraine. We've raised, at least in the district, we've raised about $55,000 through private donations and $33,000 in grants. Plus, members have donated furniture, household goods, assisted with finding jobs for the family members as they've come in, transportation, English lessons, schools for the children, just a lot. It's been a community effort, and we just hope to continue with that. If there's anything that's a shortfall, is finding sponsor families, and that's really what we need to do. And if you have any interest, or if you know anyone that might be interested in sponsoring families, please reach out to myself or Dan. And I'm going to put Dan's email address in the chat. And Dan, you can do that if you'd like. So that's kind of where we're at. And although you might look at it as a small effort to make things happen, but we've done a phenomenal job, and I'm really proud of the folks that have done that. Even if it's one family, it's a lot. And we've been able to help 16. So forever grateful for the work that everyone has done. And this club, Global Partners in Peace, has been helpful as well, and brought light to many of the issues that we all need to be aware of. So I want to, at this point, I just want to turn it over to Sophia, who will introduce our speakers and talk a little bit more about her club and some of the work that they're doing. So Sophia, take it away.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate your support so much. And one of the reasons we're having this briefing is because of your support and leadership. So we sincerely appreciate you supporting this initiative and helping it become a reality. I wanted to welcome everyone, as well as second Alan's words, to the second briefing that we have. This is my first time speaking as well, I mean, I speak on behalf of the club, but I'm a president-elect, and normally our past president, Linda, does this introduction. So I'm really excited to be doing this and having you all and moving forward, leading our club. As Alan mentioned, we're a virtual club. We're called Global Partners in Peace. Linda and other of our members were Peace Fellows in North Carolina and at the Duke UNC Club, Center, and that many of you perhaps support. And after they graduated, they wanted to continue being involved with Rotary. And so Linda and Chennai and others created this club and invited a lot of the fellows. So a lot of them are members, but we now have around 15, started with 20 members that do peace work around the world. And as Alan said, we meet twice a month, and we have our virtual events, and we have speakers from all over the world. We have members from all over the world. So our conversations go around issues that are very much pertinent, and we have the privilege to hear from folks that are in Myanmar, folks in Pakistan. We have had members from Palestine. That was our first briefing on the situation in Gaza, the health situation in Gaza, and we can share that recording as well if you want to watch it or if you attended. Thank you for that. We have people in Uganda, in Mali, in the US, in Colombia. So our members, our club members are from all over the world and share their concerns, their knowledge, their work around peace during our meetings, but also our guests are from all over the world, the Philippines. We had speakers from Australia, from everywhere, talking about issues, bringing light to issues that normally we don't see necessarily, or we don't hear directly from those affected. So that brought us to this briefings. We were having this privilege of hearing from folks very much impacted and working around issues that we care about. And we were the only ones benefiting from participating in those conversations. And because we are virtual, but our district is not, we wanted to bring the speakers and these efforts that we were doing to our larger community. Also a way to get other Rotarians in our district and other friends of, in districts where we live in the US and outside in the world to know more about our club, to know more about our work and find ways to support it. So that's why we started this briefing. The first one was in the last quarter. This is our second one. And our next one will be in September. Sakun will share a little bit more about that, but please stay tuned for our next session. And we just wanted to thank you all for helping, make this event successful by attending and finding ways to support our club. I'll share a little bit more about that after that. Maybe you'll also have heard about Linda because she does, our club is starting to support more dialogues, more DEI dialogues. So we're very much involved in that. I don't want to take too much time from our conversation, but just wanted to put that out there that our club is doing a lot of important work in collaboration with the district, but also with Rotary International and with the foundation. So I'll move on to our session, and I want to personally thank Sakun, who is based in Ukraine, for bringing this conversation. She proposed we had this briefing, and she and Linda worked really hard to have the wonderful speakers that we have today. It's really an incredible panel, so we're very thankful for all your work, Sakun, and for what you're doing. I'm the president-elect, but Sakun is not, but Sakun is our upcoming president. So together we're working on our leadership in our club. Our club works a little bit different. We have a wonderful leadership team of people. And I know Hillary, Branca, others are here who are also really involved in making this efforts happening. So thank you all thank you to our leadership team and in particular to Sakun. Sakun is a powerhouse. Besides being our president-elect, she is also a Peace Fellow alumni from Duke. We won't hold that against her. And she's a risk communication and community engagement officer at the World Health Organization in Ukraine. She has been doing work all around the world, and she's been in several areas, and most recently in Ukraine. So it makes so much sense that she's going to be leading this conversation and introducing our panel. We're very honored to have you, and I know you're all working really hard, so we appreciate your time today. Sakun, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sophia, for the kind words. So my name is Sakun, and I'm originally from Nepal, but I was a Rotary Peace Fellow at Duke UNC. Not just that, I actually did my undergraduate from Methodist University in North Carolina. So shout outs to the North Carolinians here joining us. So currently I'm working with the World Health Organization in Ukraine. I am actually just gonna share my screen so I can also share a little bit of the geography where I'm located and so on. Can I share the screen, Sophia? There. Okay.
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay, there we go. Let's get started. So I'm actually based in Dnipro, which I think you can see on the map. It's in the east of Ukraine. So the World Health Organization has a presence in Kyiv, which is the capital of Ukraine. And our Eastern hub office is located in Dnipro. And our next panel member, Yana Yashenko, she works as a communication officer with the Ministry of Health in Ukraine. She's currently based in Kyiv. And our second panel member you'll hear from her, Yulia. She's originally from Sloviansk. You can see it's further east from Dnipro. So just briefly to tell you about my work, as a risk communication and community engagement officer, my work revolves around communicating emergency-related public health advice to the most vulnerable people. And it also entails reaching out to the communities, going into the communities, internally displaced people, and so on, and assessing needs, asking what is necessary for them, and so on. So just to get you started, to sort of like place ourselves, what we are talking about when we talk about Ukraine. This is a map of Ukraine. It's a country located and bordered with Belarus, Poland, Slovakia, Romania, Moldova, and the Russian Federation. Actually, Ukraine, I've learned in the past 1 year that I have been living and working in Ukraine that Ukraine is the biggest country in Europe, actually. And it's just to give you the idea of how big Ukraine is, if you place Ukraine on the map of the US in the east, it extends from Missouri to the Atlantic Ocean and from North Ohio to Georgia. So it's a fairly big country. And about 44 million people live in Ukraine as of 2020. But since the onset of full-scale invasion on 24th February 2022 and the huge number of displacement we have seen, the number right now is estimated to be about 37 million people. So almost 10 million people have been displaced from Ukraine internally as well as externally. Ukraine is a middle-income country. In terms of religion, Orthodox Christianity is prevalent. The main economic, this is actually Kyiv, one of the very important churches in Kyiv, also under UNESCO World Heritage. the size of Kyiv equivalents to Chicago in the US. This is Kharkiv, the second biggest city, which is as big as San Antonio, I would say. And the main economic activities in Ukraine includes agriculture, food production. Ukraine is actually one of the biggest producers of sunflowers. And when I was traveling from the west to east, I saw these beautiful fields of miles and miles of sunflower fields, and it's just lovely. And Ukraine is also one of the biggest producers of grains, and it exports grains to many countries ranging from Indonesia, Bangladesh, Kenya, Tunisia, all over the world. But currently, we are living under a very difficult circumstance in Ukraine. While most of the world knows that the full-scale invasion started about 2.5 years ago, the conflict actually has been going on for over 10 years, when in 2014, Russian Federation illegally annexed Crimea, which is the southern tip of Ukraine. And after that, the two provinces in the east, Luhansk and Donetsk, were also they declared independence from the central government and were backed by the separatist groups of Moscow-based separatist groups. So that started the ongoing conflict. It's kind of like a continuation of the conflict, but that's when things started to unravel in Ukraine. And Donbass area, Luhansk and Donetsk, which is about 30% of the eastern side of Ukraine, collectively called Donbass. It's mostly Russian speaking, but the recent poll also shows that the population is not happy with the Russian with the Moscow-based separatist group entering the country. So, sorry, let me just, okay. Yeah, so the opinion poll showed that 82% of the population had the negative attitude towards the full-scale invasion. So, especially after 2012, the humanitarian situation has deteriorated in Ukraine. The unprecedented Russian full-scale invasion in Ukraine has caused 17 million people in the need of humanitarian assistance. 6.4 million people have been living as refugees all over the world, United States, various European countries. Poland and Moldova are the two countries that host the most refugees. Similarly, about 4 million people are living as IDPs in Ukraine, and the humanitarian need is really, really dire. And this photo that you can see, it was one of the photo from Irpin River in Kyiv. People were waiting to leave Kyiv in the aftermath of the full-scale invasion in 2012. So these are just some horrific photos from the ongoing conflict in the past 2 years. The one on the top right corner is Bakhmut, a city that has been turned into ghost town now. And on the left side, it's Mariupol. And in Donetsk, the displaced people are running for safety. The city that has gone on flame that you can see is Kharkiv, which the attacks have been intensified in the past couple of weeks. So currently, even if the situation is to be resolved now, the lot of land in Ukraine will not be able to produce as it did before, because there's a lot of mines, and just demining all the land, hundreds and hundreds of hectares of land, will take a lot of many years and a lot of resources. And the way this conflict has been moving forward, it's really unpredictable. And just a year ago around this time, one of the biggest dams in Ukraine, Novakhovka Dam, was destroyed. That affected over 17,000 people and displaced 2,200 families. So this is an aerial photo of the destruction that was caused by the bombing of Novakhovka dams. So working with the World Health Organization, I cannot go without mentioning the damage that the health sector has suffered since the full-scale invasion in Ukraine. So this photo is a maternity hospital in Mariupol that has been completely destroyed. And during the full-scale invasion, WHO has verified 1,808 attacks on healthcare, causing 142 deaths and 340 injuries. Similarly, just looking at the destruction suffered just in healthcare, it's over $2 billion, and damage is close to $16 billion. And these estimates are from actually 31st of December last year. And as the conflict goes on, these numbers only go up. The overall direct damage that Ukraine has suffered is estimated to be around $142 billion, whereas recovery will be needed will be $486 billion. So this was a photo just a week ago in Kharkiv, where attacks and hostility is just increasing every day, causing more suffering, and healthcare and civilian infrastructures are systematically targeted in this conflict. So what is it like to live and work in a conflict area? So this is the map of Ukraine right now. As you can see, the front line as of 18th of August 2023 is on the red ball line. And I live in Dnipro Oblast, so I'm located about 3 hours drive from the frontline area. And then the oblast that you see in red and orange are the ones that are severely affected by this conflict. And every day we suffer in Ukraine aerial threat, land threat, and the sea threat, the attacks from all possible areas. And it is very hard to predict how this conflict will play out. And the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which is one of the largest power plants in Europe, is actually under Russian occupation, which is located in Zaporizhzhia Oblast. So there is a lot of different kind of threats that we are living through. And so in this context, I ask my colleagues, I ask the people that I have gotten to know and become friends with, how do they see future for them? Some of my colleagues, for instance, they come from Donetsk Oblast, and they have been displaced for the third time in their life, and they still continue with this resilience and perseverance to stay happy, to contribute to Ukraine in one way or another. And I know that Yana and Yulia, our panel member today, are also working and contributing for the Ukrainian people. And so in this context, I ask myself, so how does the future for Ukraine look like? And with that brief background, I will introduce our next panel member, Yana Yashenko. She's a communications officer with the Ministry of Health. She's a journalist by her studies, and she has worked close to 14 years with the television and journalism area. And she's worked as an editor in national channels. She's also one of my closest counterparts in my work in Ukraine. Everything that we do, WHO does together with the Ministry of Health. We aim to support and build capacity of the ministry and provide technical support whenever necessary, wherever possible. So Yana has also worked with various news programs and channels, worked with various projects with humanitarian organizations such as UNICEF. And some of the main topics that she's working on are emergency communications, such as radiation and chemical threats, emergency, and also in social behavior change communication areas, such as vaccination, mental health, communities, and so on. So Yana, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, about your family, and what have you experienced in the past 10 years, and especially since 24th February 2022?
Good afternoon for everyone. Now I am in Kiev. I'm originally from Ukraine and based here since the full-scale aggression was started. And I guess, to be honest, we are no longer make plans for the future. All people who stay in Ukraine, we live one day at a time, and this is the main change for everyone, because even different marketing campaigns are now building all their ads on the basis of phrase like here and now. It's if we talk a lot. So all the men of my family are at the front line. Some of them have been there since 2014. Of course, we have one expectation. It's a victory, because we love our country and want to live at home despite the different political process and war. So yes, I stay in Kiev and work with Ministry of Health. I communicate with different people. I have a lot of business trip around the country, and for me, it's normal.
Yana, so I had a chance to meet Yana last year for one of our work conference, and Yana is a wonderful person. And for me, what impressed me the most is how calm she is. And when she's explaining like the toughest situations, she's really calm and quiet, and I was so impressed by her by the way she presented herself. And Yana, I know that like since when your work was perhaps a little bit different before the full scale invasion, and from my colleagues and from people that I have spoken to, people say that they never saw this coming. This was something that happened just suddenly. And could you tell me a little bit about like how did your work change in the aftermath of 24th February 2022? What was different, and how did you maneuver this sudden change in your work life as well as personal life?
So thanks to the internet, my work didn't stop. At first time, of course, we work remotely, but now we work in the office, travel around the regions, and don't ignore the air repeat alter So we always go to the shelter if in case of it. And when we talk about work, we have new methods of communication. When we speak with people and make for them some recommendation, first of all, we turned to the traditional, like of handing papers, leaflets, to give them some information and supply some recommendation. I guess our messages become short and clear. For example, after the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam, in order to prevent some misinformation about like cholera cases, we inform people every 4 hours, repeating a single messages, like there were no cases of cholera, but the medical system is ready for any scenario. And if you need more information, please call the hotline.
Yeah, thank you, Yana. Yana brought up a really, really important point that in this conflict, there is a lot of misinformation as well that has been perpetuated from the other side as well. A lot of things that are actually not happening in Ukraine just comes in the media, and all of a sudden it spreads. So there's a lot of initiative from the aggressor side to spread misinformation as well. I think one example was when we had the last in Kafka Dam case as well. There was a lot of misinformation floating around that there was an outbreak of cholera in Ukraine. In fact, this was not the case. So this is like an everyday battle for us that so many news media are coming. And in my area of work as well, we do this media monitoring and digital social listening to understand what kind of misinformation and rumors might be floating around. Yana, from my work with the Ministry of Health, I'm aware that mental health and rehabilitation are two really important topics in Ukraine right now. And as for mental health, I know that the First Lady's office is taking the lead in this. And currently we have the ongoing How Are You campaign, which is absolutely vital. I think we have been living in a super stressful situation in Ukraine, and everyone and anyone can do with the mental health support. And as for rehabilitation, I see that the number of men who have lost 1 or 2 limbs is growing, and this will only get worse as the conflict prolongs. Can you please tell us briefly about the rehabilitation program that is available for men and for veterans who have returned from the front line, and how is the process of rehabilitating them back into the society? Thank you.
Okay. I try to be brief because it's mental health and rehabilitation are two of the most relevant.
It's up all the way.
Because we know that the war will end and life will not be the same as before. So Ministry of Health realized a huge campaign due to program level and communication level. We have different kind of rehabilitation issues, but every of it starts from mental health program. And it's important to understand that in Ukraine, we haven't any culture to talk with psychologists before the war was started, and right now too. So for our people, it's hard to talk with psychologists. They also say like, I am normal, I can do everything by myself and other things. So we like teach people to talk with medicals, sorry for that, to talk with doctors and say them that it's normal and you need this information because it's not just like in this way, you taking care of yourself and your loved ones. It's important for them. And
Yes,
when we
I
talk about rehabilitation, you know, it's hard to tell how does it's going, because we have different kind of hospitals, and we try to do all that we can, because we have to build a healthy society right now. That's why we use every possibility we have and collaborate with different international like charity foundation and other things. So every case is unique. And I just can say that we do it. We built new hospital for these people and try to support them and start from mental health program. Also, we have some like community of volunteers who built some special spaces for people who need rehabilitation. It can be different kind of thing, like running clubs for people who use like prosthesis, and it can be horse running, it can be like club for children and other things. So it's work.
Yeah, thank you. And from my work also, I have come to understand that there is a really extensive investment in rehabilitation area in Ukraine, and WHO has been supporting this initiative as well to also make the therapy, physical therapy and rehabilitation part of the primary health care services. So there's a lot going on. And Yana, lastly, I just want to ask you that, there is a certain level of uncertainty. We are living week by week, like you said, day by day. And how do you see this conflict playing out? And what do you want people outside of Ukraine to know about this conflict? Is there something that you feel like you would want to take this platform and share with people outside of Ukraine? Thank you. You are muted.
I just want to say that we are all tired of this conflict, like inside the country, and I understand the whole world are tired of this conflict, but we really need some support, and it's not about money. It's about just human support, understanding, and help. Like if you know someone who smile, you can also ask him how is he, how is going, and it's really important. I hope this conflict will end it in several years, and we start to build new society in Ukraine. It's couldn't be the same like before the war, but I guess we will find the better, unique way to live and feel free and happy.
Thank you, Yana. And I agree with you. Like what I have seen and what I have experienced here is that people are so welcoming and people are so genuine. And despite the horrible situation that people are living in, almost half of my colleagues in my organization, they have been displaced second or third time in their life, and they have been in Dnipro for a year or two. And I see them all smiling, asking how you are doing, and they are so accommodating, so friendly. And I came as a I've been here for a year, so it took me a couple of months to get acquainted to, and from the drivers to the logistic managers and health operation manager, they all have been so wonderful. And also, one of my colleagues told me that he had the opportunity to leave if he wanted, but he decided not to leave, and he decided to stay and support Ukraine in whatever capacity he could. And half of his family is abroad, half of his family is living in the Russian Federation. So even the families, they have been divided because of this conflict. But his resilience and his dedication to actually work for Ukrainian people, it was so humbling. It was so touching. So yeah, thank you, Yana. So let me move on to our second panel member, Yulia. So Yulia comes from the Slovensk region in Donetsk, and she was born in a Christian family. Her father is a pastor of one of the biggest Protestant churches in that town. Unfortunately, her high school was recently destroyed, and also the institution where she got her history degree has been completely destroyed. Yeah, Yulia moved to Kyiv in 2010 and joined Maidan. Maidan was this dignity revolution of 2014, where the thousands of protesters joined to protest President Yanukovych's he did not want to sign the political and free trade agreement with the EU, but chose to connect his ties closer with the Russian Federation. There was a huge revolution, and Yulia and a few of my colleagues actually also joined this. So Yulia, in the aftermath of the full-scale invasion, she actually fled from her home only with a backpack and her cat, and it was -4 degrees, and she walked to the Polish border. And a month later, she was on a flight to Mexico, and then currently she's working and living in Seattle in the US. She's working with the resettlement agency World Relief as a caseworker, where she helps refugees from all over the world, including Ukrainian refugees in the US. Yulia, it's such a pleasure to have you here. And can you tell me a little bit about your hometown, Sloviansk, and what do you miss the most about your hometown?
Good evening for those who's like on that part of the world. Good morning for everyone who's over here where I am. It's a big opportunity and pleasure for me to join this meeting. I want to share some thoughts from other perspective. Yana, she's like currently living in Ukraine, and I will say a few words about those people who live in another country and what they experience. This is also like, it's a kind of other side of being Ukrainian somewhere away. So yes, I am originally from Slavyansk, and unfortunately, all this war and occupation of Donbass area literally started from my town. Small town, but it was the like changing moment. They were there was like some Russian people, and they joined with some guys like with the criminal backgrounds who's like originally from Slavyansk, and they attacked our SBU. This is like a military or whatever building, and everything started from that. And for a while we didn't think that it will like take long but it did. And a lot of people started to leave the town when it was possible. My family stayed in Slavyansk as long as it was possible. My dad refused to leave town because he was a pastor. I mean, he's like currently pastor, yeah, and he felt responsibility in front, like he's a church member. Like, I will not be able to call myself as a pastor if I will leave. So he stayed before some of those like Russian people took him, captured him, put him in a basement, like tape his face. And he's like elderly, he's doesn't feel good. And we were praying a lot about miracle because it was like just beginning. Nobody knows what they want, what the result will be. Unfortunately, people from other church, like a son, two sons of the pastor, of another church, they were killed eventually, and like a worship leader was killed there. But my dad, somebody tell to let him go, and 1 hour later they started to look at him because nobody understand who let him go, like who told that to let him go. It was literally a miracle. So my mom grabbed him and they left. So as long as the situation was in Slavyansk, they couldn't come back. And finally, when Ukraine returned control of this town, they came back, and all these like 10 years they keep living in Slavyansk, keep serving, keep growing the churches. They were like opening churches on the front line and did a lot of ministry. So I was supporting as much as I could. But in 2022, like a week before a full scale invasion, my parents visiting me in Kiev, and they were hugging me and saying goodbye. I was like, everything will be okay, because like nobody believed that it will be full scale invasion. I was like, okay, maybe you can like move to me in Kiev, it will be safe. But when I woke up in February 2022, like everything, this day changed everything. I remember every single second of that day, what I did, where I was, how I was like standing and trying to understand what to take in my apartment, how I'm saying goodbye to my plants, and I know that I will never be back in my apartment. I knew that somehow inside myself. I took my cat, I put him in a backpack. I took one bag of the clothes, just like the most important documents, and then I left. We were in a bomb shelter. Then we were trying to figure out with my close friend what to do next, and some familiar guy helped us to get to the west of Ukraine and then to the border. And we were crossing the border, like walking like 11 hours at night, and I saw a lot of people. This was the picture, from the Second World War, when like hundreds of women, children staying on the border in a freezing temperature. I saw like a mounting of the pillows and blankets, comforters, and I was like asking, what is this? And they were keeping babies over there to keep them warm. So all the women were like staying there. And first, what I experienced when I get to the Poland, I called to my parents, and we were crying because I was the first who was able to move. And what I feel, and I still feel that as a like person who replaced, yeah, I felt a huge guilt that I'm safe and my family not. Huge guilt. Yeah, sometimes it's like more or less, but it's still this feeling which you all the time, it's like on a background. When you live in the United States, you feel this guilt. For a very long time, I like never post photos like what I'm doing, where am I never post that because I feel guilt. in front like other people from Ukraine who right now sitting in a bomb shelter as I did before, but I had a chance to escape. So my parents right now live on the west of Ukraine. They can't come back to Slavyansk because it's very close to the front line. And when I came over here, I was trying to find like my purpose. Like, yeah, of course, I'm looking for a job. It's like when you start a new life, you have to understand the rules. I was like reading the documentation, trying to figure out what the basic documentation I need. And then there was like a lot of Ukrainians who doesn't speak English. So I started to help them. And in this moment, I realized that that's the way how I can help people. So right now I'm working at the World Relief Resettlement Agency as a resettlement specialist or like caseworker. And I'm seeing refugees from the moment when they get into United States, and the first 3 months, this is like the most hardest, 3 months of their life, big changes. I'm working with them. I'm helping with them, like with the basic stuff, like apartment, documentation, even emotional support as well. So enrolling kids into the school, helping to figure out where they can work. And we have a lot of Afghani families and as well. And that's because I perfectly speak Ukrainian and Russian languages. So I have a lot of Ukrainian families, which also like my families, which I am supporting. And I feel this is the perfect place for me because I feel compassion, because I exactly know what they feel. I know their thoughts, what they're thinking. And I'm sorry, I'm very talkative, but yeah, this is me.
No, it's thank you, Yulia, for sharing all this. And I was just going to, my next question was going to be about your work and how do you see the work that you do with the refugees from all over the world in the US, and the need of the Ukrainian people that have been displaced within the country and outside. But I think some of it you answered. So I just wanted to ask you one more question. How so it's been 10 years since this conflict started, and as you mentioned, your hometown was actually the area where the whole thing started. And
Yes.
how is the situation there right now? Are you still in touch with some family members? Does any one of your neighbor or your close family, you mentioned that your parents are in the west of Ukraine, but is there anyone left in Sloviansk that you grew up with? And are you in touch with them now? And what do you see the future for Sloviansk? How do you see this conflict playing out? And do you think one day you will be able to go back to Slovensk?
Yes, that's why I'm in a process of making green card, because the first thing which I'm trying to do is like to go to Ukraine. My husband, he's American, so, and he is very into these topics. I was like sharing my culture with him, and we have a great festival once per year, Ukrainian festival in Seattle. And like last time it was thousands people in Ukrainian shirt, vyshivanka. And everybody's so friendly, everybody, such a strong Ukrainian community over here. But I feel, to be honest, I feel a huge difference between those people who came to United States, Ukrainians who came to United States many years ago, and those Ukrainians who recently. Different mindset, if that makes sense.
In what way? Can you tell me what difference do you see between the Ukrainians who were in the US long time ago and the recent arrivals?
I think this past 10 years, actually, yeah, they destroyed a lot of buildings, destroyed a lot of towns, but these 10 years built a Ukrainian identity, very strong way. So for me, the person who was on the East, I never thought that Russians are enemies. For those who was born on West, they always was afraid of Russia. Culturally, that's true. But these 10 years and especially 2 years of full-scale invasion, they built strong, solid nation. So the person who's Ukrainian, his identity changed. He's like fully understand that I am Ukrainian. I have like a lot of values which I want to share with the world. Wherever I am going to be, I'm going to represent Ukrainian culture. So that's the difference. But for those who came before that, they kind of, yeah, they feel that they're Ukrainians, but it's kind of more with the like Soviet color, you know, like with some like atmosphere of, because they remember Ukraine, that she was the Ukraine like post-Soviet Ukraine. But these 30 years change us, fully change. We became like independent in our head. I was born next day after Ukrainian proclaimed her independence, like 25th August. And I always felt something special about that. So the first day when Ukraine was actually independent, incredible country, and I became someone, yeah. About Slavyansk, what you asking? Yes, I have a lot of friends who staying in Slavyansk from my school, from my class, and they were texting me that they were helping to with the school situation. It was everywhere in the news that school destroyed, like it was recently, maybe a couple months ago, and they were helping bringing the water, you know, trying to save someone, if someone over there. And unfortunately the guardian, the guy who was like security guy, he died. And like literally people from my class, they were like trying to get him out from the school. So what I think that this must be stopped. And I think that only one acceptable um, uh, for us, how do you say it in English? Sorry. Like we will, as Ukrainians, we will accept only victory. This is in our character. This is in our blood. We are fighter. So as you said before in your like pictures, which when you were sharing the your screen, that there was like a lot of fields and like we plants in our country, and for a very long time people thought that this is Ukrainians. But if we will look back to the history, as a historian, I would say our nation is a nation of fighters, like Kazakhs. If you go back like 200 years ago, this is a nation of like natural fighters, and that's what we're showing on the front line every day.
Thank you, Yulia. Actually, there's a question for you, Yulia. Somebody wants to know, where are you finding the fundings to support your efforts to find host families? Our district is doing the same and find this as a challenges. I don't know if this was a question for Yulia directly or for Alan, but
No, that was Ellen. Ellen asked that question, so it's for Julia.
oh, for Yulia.
This is from resettlement, like government, I believe. So depends. I'm not like able to talk about detail because we have like a special person in Rotary who can talk about that. But we have funds from government specified for like who came by SAV, special immigrant visa, for those one who came as a refugee status, it's not enough. It's not enough because especially over here in Seattle area, it's so expensive to buy like a material needs support items, like basic things like a bed, a table or something like that. So we have a lot of like volunteers, and we also have a lot of churches who support us. And World Relief started like since Second World War. It's a Christian organization who's supporting everyone.
Okay. Okay. That's great. Do we have more questions, Sophia? We can actually, I think we are at the end of our conversation with Yana and Yulia, but we can open up for a few questions. I think we have another 10, 15 minutes, I believe. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We have a comment. Yana, Yulia, Sakun, and Sophia, thank you all for sharing your personal situation and bigger picture of. Thank you for joining and listening to us. If there are any other questions, I actually have some Ukrainian colleagues also joining here, and I just want to acknowledge them and say thank you for their unwavering commitment to work for Ukrainians. And if you want to share something, you can share as well. I think I have two colleagues joining me here. If you want to share anything and anything that you want to know, people in the US, our Rotarians who are strong advocates for peace, if you want to share something, please feel free to share.
Hello, Sakun. Hello, dear partners and dear colleagues. It's a really pleasure for me to attend this meeting. It's a first time when I'm attending such kind of events. Thanks for the speakers who shared their thoughts, their like feelings in terms of situation which happened in Ukraine. I would like to highlight just a bit of things. When I saw your presentation, Sakun, thanks a lot for this presentation. It's shows quite a lot and provide quite a lot of information for the people who are not here, who are not living in Ukraine and who are not feeling all of these circumstances which is rounded us. It's not easy time for all of the Ukrainians who are living here. As you said, I'm completely agree with your words which you said. That some of the families were separated. Some of the families were like, some of them they moved abroad. Some of the family member they're on the front line, and it's not easy for the people. It's really difficult to talk honestly speaking about this situation, but the people, they have to know how it's going on here in Ukraine. It's a bit different war, it's a bit different situation in general, but I'm completely agree with the speakers that nobody expected that the Russia will do full-scale invasion in Ukraine. Just my personal example. Originally I'm from Donetsk city, which were occupied in 2014, And on 2014, in May 2014, I remember exactly this time, me and my wife, we moved from Donetsk to Dnipro, and she's also doctor, and she completed her last course of medical university in Dnipro. And in a year we moved to Mariupol. It was 2016. Yeah, and actually we do realize that the front line is quite closed, but again the situation was more or less stable, and we start to build our life like normally, you know, like in the area which close to us, like, and like, yeah, we start to build a normal life. And I exactly remember the 24th of February 2022, when me and my wife and my son, we just took a couple of like necessary things with us, and we moved like to the west part of Ukraine without knowing what will wait for us in future, you know. But however, we have to be also realistic, and also we have to proud of each other, that we are able to support each other. I'm also completely agree that the mental health situation here is not so like adapted for the Ukrainians, you know, because before the like, even to take as an example, 10 years ago, nobody was thinking that they need like some psychologist or some mental health support or whatever. But now the people, yeah, and also like the people, they had a stigma for this, you know, because usually they mix it the mental health support with psychiatrist support, you know. And now what I saw in this area, that's the people they're trying to do for each other first psychological support, even, you know, when they're doing some collecting people, and they're trying to draw something, you know, like to have like reading clubs, you know, something like, especially elderly people. This is really nice, and I think we will be able to manage this situation, and I'm really grateful that the people can hear us externally, and they can make it like not a decision, but like to understand the general situation which is going on here. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex, for sharing. Really appreciate it. I didn't want to call your name because I didn't want to create the pressure, but I'm so glad that you shared. Alex is one of my good colleague, and we work together. So I know a lot about his family and so on. So I'm really grateful, Alex, that you opened up and share with our community. So I think we are arriving towards the end of this humanitarian briefing. And I just want to, before we wrap up and I give the floor to Alan, I just want to reground ourselves to global partners and peace, partners in peace's value. So we try to have a difficult conversation, controversial issues, and so on. We want to hear voices of different people from all over the world. And no matter what our political views are, no matter what our opinion is in certain issues, we want to open up our space to have the difficult conversation, to discuss the views that might be different. And in case of Ukraine, the views, overwhelming view around the world is that what's happening in Ukraine goes directly contrary to international humanitarian law. Civilians have been constantly targeted in this conflict. Hospitals, civilian structures, humanitarian actors, they have been constantly targeted. So this is something that we can most of us can agree on. And what can we ask from you, from Rotarians? Please keep having this conversation. Please spread the word about Ukraine. Please push with your local legislation, national legislation for brokering peace in Ukraine. And so this is something that we can ask of you. And before we close, let me pass it to Alan, our wonderful district governor, who has been a big advocate for our club, Global Partners in Peace. We are a virtual club with members from over 18 different countries from different parts of the world. And our next humanitarian briefing, we will move to a different continent. We will be discussing youth radicalization prevention effort in Central and West Africa. And our big brother, Patrick, who is one of our founding members of the club, he will be leading this humanitarian briefing in September. Please mark your calendar, and let me pass it to Alan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sakun. Yeah, you said it better than I could say it as far as what we can do as Rotarians. We all have our own way of supporting, and I just encourage all of you to find the way you can support it, how your club may support the refugees that are in our country and in your communities, as well as those who have remained behind in Ukraine. There are ways that we could support them as well, and please continue to do that. Sakun mentioned a few of those ways. I want to thank the Global Partners in Peace Club, particularly Sophia and Linda, for their leadership with this briefing, and the club in general for their efforts to brief on these really tough topics, but important topics for all of us to be aware of. I want to thank Sakun, Yana, and Yulia for their work and their courage, tremendous courage, as we all know. Going through some really tremendously difficult times, and we appreciate your courage and admire it. Please be safe. Know that we support you through our thoughts and our prayers. And like you, we hope it will end soon and that it will be a victory for Ukraine. So I want to thank you all for being here today, and just keep up the great work that you all are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.